Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are when you see this video. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I'll be talking a little bit about the economy, the economic situation, what's been going on, just a bit of it, not a lot, but I'll share what I have. I'm going to start with this article. Trump fires statistics official after U.S. posts weak job numbers. Of course, as one who has looked at the job market and people in my household who are working at restaurants and the struggle for hours and shift and issues with moving up and things like that, and no other jobs out there really. It's been very difficult for us, so I'm not really surprised by this. Recent data was rigged to harm him politically, the American president has claimed. U.S. President Donald Trump dismissed Erica McIntyre, Commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics on Friday, claiming that the latest employment figures had been rigged against him. The dismissal followed weaker than expected July hiring numbers and significant downward revisions for May and June. Trump alleged in a Truth Social post that the employment figures issued this week had been deliberately manipulated and to harm him politically, describing them as rigged to make Republicans and himself, I think that's where he was saying me in all caps that I mentioned yesterday, look bad. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately, he posted later on Friday, asserting that this woman would be replaced by someone much more competent and qualified. So a BLS spokesperson confirmed that this woman was terminated and Deputy Commissioner William Wyatrowski will take over on an acting basis. July jobs report showed just 73,000 jobs added, with revisions revealing 258,000 fewer jobs overall in May and June. The unemployment rate rose slightly to 4.2%. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer supported Trump's decision to replace this woman, emphasizing the importance of making sure the American people can trust BLS data. Republican Senator Roger Marshall, who had previously questioned McIntyre's job statistics, also praised the move. Marshall stated on X that her cooked up numbers have misled the American people for too long. Economists, however, expressed concern about the firing, with Aaron Dube warning on X that it threatens to destroy trust in core American institutions and all government statistics. A bipartisan group including former BLS commissioners William Beach, appointed by Trump, and Erica Grosjean, named to the post by former President Barack Obama, condemned this woman's firing. The rationale undermines the credibility of federal economic statistics, they said in a statement. Democratic Senate leader Chuck Schumer also criticized Trump's decision. What does a bad leader do when they get bad news? Shoot the messenger. The monthly jobs report significantly impacts financial markets, which fell about 1.5% following the announcement. Trump hasn't always been skeptical of these reports. When May data was first released in June, showing 139,000 jobs added, he posted, "Great job number, stock market up big." That figure was later revised down to 125,000, then sharply to just 19,000. Wow. Yeah. I don't really think this is rigged. I think these numbers are accurate. I'm going to go to this other video that's important. I'm going to share a portion of this. It's very important, especially if you're in the working class or middle class like me.
So-called economic experts who doubted this president and his economic formula are now eating their words. In fact, there was a story on the cover of the Wall Street Journal today saying that those fears of recession that everyone was ranting and raving about have now cooled because the economy and everyone from Wall Street to Main Street understands this is a president who is a businessman and he knows what he's doing.
So without a doubt, the data is one of the latest signs of economic strain as consumers deal with persistent inflation, high interest rates, and growing uncertainty over tariffs. LendingTree conducted a survey polling 2,000 U.S. consumers across all age groups and income levels between the ages of 18 and 79. The findings paint a troubling picture, and so I want to share the details with you today in this video. Around 50% of respondents reported having used buy now, pay later services. Of those 50%, 25% said that they used buy now, pay later loans to buy groceries. That number is up significantly from just 14% a year prior in 2024. So the jump in financing essential items like groceries shows just how far the practice has moved beyond its original intent. Not too long ago, this type of loans was used mainly for discretionary purchases like electronics or clothing, but now, in the modern day and age, buy now, pay later loans are quickly becoming a lifeline for daily necessities such as food. But the trouble doesn't stop at usage. 41% of respondents who used buy now, pay later services said that they made at least one late payment in the past year, and that is up from 34% the year before. According to LendingTree's chief consumer finance analyst, most of those who paid late said that they were behind by no more than just a week. However, even short delays can lead to fees or credit damage depending on the buy now, pay later services provider. Many Americans are under financial pressure and are increasingly relying on short-term loans to manage their day-to-day expenses. For a lot of people, that means leaning on buy now, pay later loans. And while it may help them get to the next paycheck, it is not always a long-term solution. It just can't be by its nature. How do buy now, pay later services actually work? Let's take a quick look. So buy now, pay later loans work by allowing consumers to split payments over time, often with no interest at all, as long as payments are made on schedule. But the growing reliance on these loans among all age groups in the United States, especially for essentials, raises major concerns. High late fees, difficulty tracking multiple loans, and potential credit implications all contribute to growing financial risk. Here's even worse news for you today. Even though buy now, pay later services can be a helpful, interest-free way to bridge paychecks, mismanaging it can create more problems than it solves. Meanwhile, DoorDash recently announced that it would begin accepting buy now, pay later payments via Klarna, effectively allowing people to finance food deliveries in the United States. As expected, the news prompted both criticism and concern, with some suggesting that financing fast food like cheeseburgers and burritos may be the clearest sign yet of an economy under pressure. Consumers had previously been somewhat resilient in the face of high inflation and interest rates, despite a slowdown in demand and hiring. But in early 2025, that resilience appears to be fading. Large companies, including Walmart and Delta Airlines, have issued warnings that demand is weakening and sales forecasts are being downgraded. In that context, the surge in buy now, pay later services used for basic needs becomes even more troubling. LendingTree's survey highlights that among Gen Z consumers, those aged 18 to 28, 1/3 admitted to using buy now, pay later loans for groceries. For this age group, groceries were the fourth most common use, following clothing, technology, and home decor. Another revealing data point, about 2/3 of buy now, pay later users have considered using the loans for food delivery too. The partnership between DoorDash and Klarna isn't just a one-off. This is a response to real demand from consumers who are struggling to pay for meals. Unfortunately, there is no reason to think that this situation is going to change anytime soon. In fact, with how things are going with the revived trade tariff war that I discussed in a recent video here on my channel in great detail, it may actually get worse before it gets any better.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very good now, does it? Having to do these loans, it would make me nervous, because loans, that can be a trap with having to pay that eventually anyway. But I know that some people, that's the only way, or I know some people that they have to use their credit card to actually get groceries and then pay it back later. That's what they do. I mean, it's really terrible that this is happening in the richest country on the planet. I found the DoorDash information, concerning. They're going to do the buy now, pay later thing with DoorDash. How does that work for the DoorDashers for their tips? I'm wondering, because it's mostly their tips that are helping them to be able to support themselves. I know this because a lot of DoorDashers come into the store where I work, in the restaurant where I work, and they've explained certain things to me on what's going on with them and how DoorDash works, and what's going on with sometimes the tips aren't very high or whatever. And I assume that the tips aren't going to be higher or get any better if we have all these issues anyway. People can't even afford the tips, especially in restaurants that are going up to 25% or more. People can barely do the 20%. So of course, that just means people will say, well, it just means you need to stay home and eat it at home. Could be. It also could mean more people who don't have the means and are working 2 or 3 jobs or whatever, and they have to come home and they have to make something quickly, which means they're going to be eating a lot of fast food or pre-processed food and all those unhealthy foods that aren't going to help their systems and their health. And that's the real vicious cycle for the people who are in a working class and more financial problems for them. It's very difficult for them. So I just wanted to share that, because I don't think it's as rosy as Trump is saying that it is. I think that he is not. Obviously, he doesn't want to think there's anything wrong, So this is the issue. So we'll see what happens. What we do know in the prophecies that things will get worse for the economy. When that happens in this World War III, I don't know, but it's in there. Thanks so much for watching, and I will be back later. Until next time.